You just heard it. Joseph and I had to go to Bethlehem. We had to be registered because he was from the house of David. Now, mind you, I was due any day, and I wasn't looking forward to this trip. I was not looking forward to that 4-day travel because I was due any day. Nonetheless, we started off. Now, I'm young at this point in my life and pretty healthy, but still, that's a hard, long trip for somebody in my condition. And each step of the way, I was becoming more and more uncomfortable. And as every day passed, I wasn't sure if it was the baby ready to come or if it was that the donkey was unsteady on her feet. And oh my goodness, when we arrived there to the city, you should have seen all of the people. It was incredible. The first place we went was to the inn, and Joseph knocked on the door. Only we were told, there's no room at the inn. Joseph and I were desperate, and he went and he kept knocking on house doors, just going from house to house, knocking, pleading and crying, saying, look, my wife is about ready to deliver a baby. And some people were rather rude, even though I was so close to giving birth to a child. They were tired and weary from all of the travelers knocking, looking for a place to stay because the inn was full. And most people, though, were nice about it, even though they still turned us away. There was one man, though. One man. He said, I'm sorry, we don't have room for you, sir, but you and your wife might want to go and look at the stable on the hill. You might be able to find shelter, at least there. And so Joseph and I walked up the hill. And when we got to the hill, Joseph very quickly ran inside and he smoothed out some hay to kind of make a bed for me. And then he pulled off the blanket from the donkey and laid it down there and helped me down on that bed of hay. And he looked in my eyes and he could tell I was so scared. We didn't know anybody there. No one knew us. This wasn't even Joseph's baby. I never had given birth to a baby before anyway, so I didn't know what to expect, let alone giving birth to the Son of God. And it didn't take long, and the baby came, and the baby was crying, and Joseph picked up the baby and held him up to the light as best he could, and just to get a look at him. And as he took him back down and started handing him to me, he said, look, Mary, he's here. He's here. It's the Messiah. You're hanging on to God's Son. And I just wept as I hung on to him and I looked in this sweet baby's face. Me. God chose me to deliver his Son. And the fear and the anxiety went away, and as I looked at the baby and looked in his eyes, there was a sense of peace that came over me, almost as if the baby was trying to tell me, it's going to be okay. You're going to be okay. God's going to work everything out. And we sat there together for a few moments and just held Jesus tight. And we cuddled and we tried to get as comfortable as we could on that bed of hay. No one wants to have their baby in a cold, wet cave with stinky animals. And yet, those animals help provide heat and warmth in that cold, wet cave. And we did manage to get a little bit comfortable. We were exhausted. And yet neither one of us could sleep. We were just in awe, hanging on to this sweet baby. And we just thought we were in for a quiet, peaceful night inside this cave. And then the most amazing thing happened. This whole group of shepherds came. This whole group of shepherds. And they said, we hope you don't mind if we come in for a minute. We want to see this baby. An angel came to visit us. We were living in the fields watching our flock, and this angel came and said to go to Bethlehem and gave us instructions and said exactly where we'd find the baby, and that the baby would be wrapped in cloth lying in a manger. It was amazing, you know. They didn't have any trouble finding the place. And yet it's sad because there are so many people that have trouble finding their way to Jesus. And they listened. They listened to the instructions and followed them to the T. And it was just as the angel told them. These shepherds, they came without hesitation. Normally they wouldn't go into town, you know, because they weren't always treated very well. Plus, they didn't always smell the greatest. And not many people wanted anything to do with them. And these are the first ones that came to see our son, to see God's son. You see, what the angel said is true. And Joseph and I were amazed at the extremes that God used to announce the coming of his son, the Messiah. And we were amazed at the extremes God used in coming into the world to be born as a baby in lowly estate, with the first visitors being shepherds. Praise be to God.